Because I thought that King Edward VIII was very punk rock. I thought he was quite rebellious and cutting edge in his point of view about life and how to run the empire. And I thought that using the Sex Pistols was a perfect marriage between the monarchy at the time and what they were doing, drinking Benzedrine cocktails while watching a Charlie Chaplin film.
Hans, go ahead, right here.
This question's for Madonna. Given your tremendous success in your career, what's the best career advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you? Oh, my name is Vicky Salemi, by the way, from New York City.
And that's 2 questions.
Thank you for making me not have to do that every time.
What's the best career advice? Oh my goodness. It might take me a while.
Let me come back to that then.
Yes.
Let's come back to that one. I'm going to go right there. Yeah. I can't really see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Hi, this question is for Madonna. This is Chad Dunleavy.
Who are you?
Chad Dunleavy from the Montreal Gazette. You talked before about waiting to make this film until you had learned enough of cinematic language, and I'm just wondering what your approach cinematically was to this story, how to tell the story as a director.
You mean my choice of cameras and things like that?
Yeah, exactly. Everything that goes into your job as a director, how you approached making the film.
And maybe if you were inspired by other films, the look of other films.
Of course, I was inspired by many films. First of all, I had to. It was important to me to underline and express the world of luxury that these characters came from, the royal family. The world that Wallace Simpson lived in. She was very much a presentational character that cared deeply about the rooms that she was in, the lighting, the flowers, her dress. And then, of course, Wally's character, she lives on Park Avenue. She also lives in a world of good taste, refinement, and luxury. So I wanted to express that in the film. Also, the Sotheby's auction aspect of the film was very much about objects and objects being used as a device to go back and forth in time, objects that had a very tactile sensibility about them. So you needed to see that shiny gleamingness of the martini shaker or the pillbox or the linen, the tactile quality of touching a linen tablecloth. So it was important to pick up on those details and nuances. And then because a lot of the movies that I referenced or that inspired me were movies where there were a lot of tracking shots or steady cams. I like a lot of movement with cameras, not locked off shots. I like the magic that is created. I like the lyricism and the dance that the movie becomes with the camera moving and following. It's like a living, breathing creature that has to be choreographed. And I equate a dolly tracking shot and a woman walking down the street as something extremely feminine and mysterious. So, so that was some of the millions of ideas I had.
Right. Go ahead.
Hi, Devin Scoble, Simpatico in Movies. Madonna, this film is positioned for wide release in December, which is right in the middle of Oscar season. How do you feel about that?
My legs and my fingers are crossed.
Go ahead, Amy. And we should also point out Madonna's wearing a WE necklace. I don't know if you can see it from the audience, but it's quite something.
Why did you want to point that out?
Because it's a nice promotional item.
It was actually a gift from my birthday gift from my staff.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I love it.
Avery?
Avery Haynes from City TV. And Madonna, this is a question for you. I'm wondering whether you can quantify the pressure that you may feel to present a movie compared to the pressure that you feel when you present an album. You've had critical acclaim musically and have not had the same kind of acclaim cinematically. Do you feel a pressure?
Of course I do. It's because it's new, and I had the same kind of pressure when I began my music career, and I was nervous, and I didn't know what to expect, and people didn't know what to expect, and I had to earn my way in the world of, being taken seriously in the music department, and now I'm well aware that I have to do the same in the world of film. So,
do you care what the critics think?
Well, I do when I think that it's a fair criticism. I can tell when people are reviewing my film and when they're reviewing me personally, and I welcome criticisms of my film when it's viewed as an artistic form, and not when people are mentioning things about my personal life or my achievements in any other field, because they're irrelevant to the film. So when they stick to the film, then I do care. I pay attention to it.
Right. Go right here.
Philip Terlecki from Unext. I just had a question for the whole panel and Madonna. As far as sort of input into the characters, how much do you sort of try to pass on to your actors, and how much do you allow them to discover who they are? And also the other craftspeople as well, cinematographer and composer.
I'll start. I felt like there was a whole wealth of information available in regards to research. Madonna, when I was in Los Angeles before I went to London, Madonna sent me a whole box full of the Sotheby's catalogues, full of art books on women that she thought that Wally would be into, and just sort of indulged me within that world. And we had a lot of discussions about character too, but there was a certain sense of freedom, I remember, when we were rehearsing. And it was really lovely just to be able to find that character within ourselves, physically, mentally, spiritually, but know that we had, all the information and all the direction that we needed from Madonna.
Because my relationship with the Duchess of Windsor was peripheral to the extent that I was aware of her, but I didn't fully have an emotional connection, an emotional response to who she was. She was like a still image in my head, a monochrome still image, a striking image, but not one that had life. When we first met and talked, Madonna's passion for really uncovering the vulnerability of who this woman might have been behind the public eye was infectious. And from that point on, I felt that we discovered the same person. And that was a real wonderful complicity between us, artistically. It's something that I enjoyed and I find very fulfilling.
It was interesting too, actually, having to research Wallis Simpson's story from Wally's point of view, because I almost felt a similar sense of the obsession of what was this woman's life, what did this love mean for the both of them, and that question became a much bigger question the more and more I would research it, and I was more adamant about finding an answer. Not that there is a black and white answer, but there was something kind of beautiful about that for me, uncovering that.
Yeah.
And for you?
Well, I think the most interesting ideas come from actually a clash of different things, and for us it was sometimes this way that you always come with some expectations what I would like to write, and then there's the process of discovery, what's actually needed, what works, what not, and being in a situation where my background is classical music and Madonna's is pop. I thought it would be a very an obstacle, but it was not, and I found myself actually learning very interesting things about music, which helped me in my classical thinking. Which Madonna revealed to me with her background.
And Madonna, do you have a thought?
Well, I just think that it's important to start. It was important for me to give all of my actors as much information as possible so that they could create their character. With Wallis Simpson, obviously, it was easier because she was a real historical person that lived and walked on this planet. So there was an enormous amount of information to hand over to Andrea, books and documentary films and hundreds of millions of photographs and interviews with people who'd known her. There was an enormous amount of research that went into her character. But the important thing is that once you have all that information, once Andrea digested all that information, we come back to the idea of freedom, and that is that you take all of that information and then you forget it. You throw it away. It becomes part of your DNA, and you're not thinking about it, and you're not conscious of it anymore. And then you create that character, and it is a perfect marriage of who you are and who they were. And I would say the same for Abby's character. I had more freedom to create her character, but I had an idea, and she was somewhere, she was really somewhere between, she was mostly inspired by a character in an F. Scott Fitzgerald novel, Tender as the Night, which was an important book for Wally to read and for Abby to read, and that combined with various other heroines in films and literature, we created her character. And then once again, the idea was to take all that information and then digest it and throw it away. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Final question of the day goes right here. Dan?
Hi, Dan Dufort from Zoomer Radio. I was curious about your interest in Wallis Simpson and almost telling her story in a more sympathetic way.
My choice to tell the story in a sympathetic way? Is that what you're saying? Well, I thought she was she's an incredibly, she was and is a very provocative character in the history of world politics, in the world of fashion, in the decision that King Edward VIII made to leave the throne. I don't think it was ever done before. It changed the British Empire. It changed things enormously. And she is a mysterious, enigmatic creature, not conventionally beautiful, not young, not twice divorced, not anything fabulous about her background, and somehow she managed to capture the heart of the man who at the time held the most important position in the world, and that story intrigued me immensely, and I wanted to understand it. But also, what I was interested in was the idea or the concept of the cult of celebrity, which we are all consumed with now and then, and the idea is that there are so many rumors that are now believed to be true about Wallis Simpson, and when I investigated her story, there were so many of them that I could find no empirical evidence stating that they were true. And so I realized that we have always, since the time of Christ or Cleopatra, or you can go back through history and name any iconic or historical figure, we hear, it's like Chinese whispers. It starts off as one story, and by the time it gets to us, it's something completely different, and we believe it to be true. And we often reduce our historical figures or our iconic figures to a soundbite, and it's tremendously unfair, and we forget that they are human beings. So what was important to me was to portray Wallis Simpson as a human being with flaws, imperfections, and a human side, a vulnerable side.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to ask the press to stay seated. My thanks to Abol, to Andrea, Madonna, and Abby for making this such a pleasure. Thank you.